Shannen, thank you so much for chatting to us today. I just want to start off, for people listening, can you tell us a little bit about your background and what being an ex-people pleaser is all about?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here today. So, a little bit about myself. I'm a sex and relationship coach and sex educator, and I've been working in this space for maybe around 3 or 4 years now. But this topic has always been something that's really fascinated me, especially growing up in Ireland. The topic of sex was very taboo, and adults and my classmates, everyone was uncomfortable talking about it for some reason. And I loved talking about it. So that kind of led me down the path of making some questionable searches on the family computer and just really love learning more about it. So I went down a path of education, and I was working as a teacher in Abu Dhabi for a couple of years. And then probably around COVID, I found a course for sex and relationship coaching. So I kind of merged the two of education and my love and passion for making these conversations be more normalized.
Yeah, and sorry, can I just ask you there, because I always find it fascinating when I speak to people like yourself who are in this industry, because there's not many people you can look up to and go, oh, I want to be like them, or I want to, because there's not, like, it's quite a new thing, isn't it? Like, there's not a lot of sex educators out there, or especially like years ago when you were looking into it, and especially not in Abu Dhabi, I would suspect. So was there a moment, you said it was just something that you loved talking about and something, did you feel that you didn't know enough?
Yeah, do you know what? I can actually nearly pinpoint it back to when I was in primary school and we got our first sex ed talk. And now when I say sex ed, I'm putting air quotes because it was basically about pregnancy prevention and wait until you're married. But I remember the teacher telling the boys about masturbation, and the girls were completely left out of the conversation. And even at such a young age, I was like, where are the women? Why aren't we being talked about? So that kind of led me to being really curious. And then anyone I asked about it was uncomfortable. Even my parents now, they're great, and telling them about the job that I'm doing, they're great with it now. Like, I love them. But at the time, they weren't equipped with it because their sex talk that they got from their parents were even less than I had, So that lack of just immediately knowing that there was something lacking and we needed to talk about it. And I loved being the person that people came up to me and asked me questions. My friends, if we were in a friend group, they wouldn't really say anything, but they'd come up to me privately and be like, have you ever heard of this? And I just loved finding out that information and being kind of, even before I knew what I was doing, but being that safe space for someone.
Okay, well, you're the perfect person to be a sex educator and doing what you're doing. Okay, let's talk about people pleasers, because I find this subject really interesting because I can't really define myself the difference between just being really sound and being a really nice person and being a people pleaser. So what is the difference?
Yeah, so a lot of people will often confuse people pleasers with just being nice, or sure, you're just trying to make everyone happy. But the difference is with the reason behind why you're doing it.
Okay.
So people pleasing is driven by fear. That could be fear of rejection, fear of not being liked, fear of disappointing someone. And this is all like the basis of people pleasing. Whereas being kind, you're doing something out of the goodness of your heart. You're not expecting anything back. When you're being kind, this is a choice. But when you're people pleasing, this feels like pressure. And this pressure might be coming from you internally. And it probably is, that's from your fear, but it feels different.
Okay. So it's the motivation
as well.
Sorry, Shannen. So it's the motivation behind why you do something. When did you recognize that you were a people pleaser?
I don't know. Was there any exact moment? I think maybe it was when I was looking up stuff to do with relationship styles and patterns and kind of the psychology of everything, that I kind of realized that I was putting a lot of other people's needs above my own. And I was very self-sacrificing and just thinking that's what made me a good person, when really I wasn't giving anyone the full version of myself. I was just pretending to be what they wanted.
Let's talk about dating then, when people pleasing gets into dating and what that looks like.
Yeah. So it can be really tricky because with people pleasing, you're essentially giving your other people a false version of yourself. You're fitting yourself into what you think other people will see as agreeable or likable. So it gets especially hard when you're going down longer term dating because you eventually lose all sense of identity of like who you truly are because you've molded yourself to fit someone else's desires. And you're never, I think as women as well, we're taught how to be desirable before we're taught how to desire, or like why our needs, what we want, what that looks like. And for me, it showed up as seeking external validation and getting, I love love and people telling me nice things and getting praise that made me feel really good. But I never actually stopped to ask myself, do I choose them? Do I want them? Or do I just want them because they want me?
Oh, that's a really tricky thing to navigate. Wow. And are there different types of people pleasers in relationships? Is there extremities in this?
Yeah, there's quite a few different varying. Like you might be people pleasing in one situation, maybe in work, maybe your boss you can't say no to and you do extra hours after, or maybe it's in a relationship. It doesn't have to show up in all aspects, but there's a couple I will kind of talk about today. So there's one we already mentioned was the conflict avoider. So you do not want to have any conflict. So this will stop you from expressing your own opinions when you're upset over something. It's maybe this can be from when you're younger and you're kind of shown if you're not allowed to show your emotions. So then with this, you just don't want to have any fights whatsoever. You see it as a bad thing when conflict can be healthy and it should be expressed. Then you have the responsibility taker. This is the person who's responsible for everyone's emotions. You take that all upon yourself. You're having a house party, your friends are over, and your main goal is keeping everyone happy. So you go through the whole night on autopilot, running around, checking to make sure everyone is great, but you've never actually been present in the moment. You didn't enjoy the night at all because you're so worried to make sure everyone else is having a good time, which again can sound like you're being considerate, but you're being considerate at the cost of of your own happiness. So that's when the balance can elapse. Then we have the mirror. This is the person who molds themselves into the people that they're around. Their opinions are your opinions. You agree with everything that they're saying, that they're doing, because you think again that will make you more liked. And then you have the martyr. This is the person who sacrifices and they feel like they're sacrificing. And, oh, I dropped him to the airport. You're keeping like a mental tally of all the things that you did for someone. So then you can either, one, hold it over them down the road, or two, you're expecting to get something back, and it can be something small, like in the everyday of you hold the door open for someone and then they come through and they don't say thank you. And in your head, you're like, what a bitch. Like she didn't say thanks to me. But if you were just being kind, you'd hold the door and you're not expecting anything. It's fine. But when you're in people pleasing, you're holding it, being like, okay, they're going to say thank you to me. They're going to be happy. So you kind of have to let go of that expectation of what other people, how they're going to react to something that we do.
It must be quite a shift in a relationship when somebody realizes they're people pleasing and starts to work on it. Because I do find in my own friend group, being of a certain age, let's say, being in our midlife, okay, that we've a serious dose of the fuck it's. Do you know what I mean? We do not give a fuck anymore. In a sense that we care less. We're less people pleasers. We finally have time for ourselves because our kids are a bit older. We're in a different stage. We're not as concerned about what people think of us anymore. And sometimes my husband is like, who are you? Like, this is a bit of a shift. Now, I would call that midlife, but it must be the same if you're a people pleaser and you start to work on it and you change or you're getting better at that. It must be a little harder on the partner to come to terms with that. Would you say there's problems in relationships when people start to work in their people pleasing? Because essentially, you're changing your personality.
Yeah, but it's you becoming your authentic self. So it's the version of you that's true. When you're people pleasing, you're giving everyone else a false narrative, a false story. And of course it can be hard because if everyone's so used to you always saying yes, bending over backwards, and when you suddenly stop doing this, it can be tricky. But the right people
Mm.
will be happy
Yeah.
that you're having boundaries, that
Yes.
you're saying what you want. You're like, the opposite of a people pleaser isn't a bitch. It's someone who's holding their values and they know their worth and their boundaries. And that's it. And people might say, oh, like you're coming across as like, selfish. It's not selfish. You're just putting your needs at the same value that you've been putting other people's, and you're valuing your time and your energy. So again, if there's bumps in the relationship because you're not as agreeable as you used to be, or you're not as low maintenance.
That's their problem.
Yeah, it kind of though, like
Yeah.
I think with people pleasing as well, like when I'm a lot of my clients, when they've kind of realized that they've had these behaviors, they're so scared, like, I can't just start doing this now. I'm going to feel so bad. And like, that's kind of part of the process. You will feel bad about doing it because you're so used to saying yes, but let people know, like say to your friends, you know what? I want to become more decisive and stop saying, I don't mind. Can you like hold me accountable? And again, the right people will want to help you become the true version of yourself.
That is
And
so true. Throughout this whole conversation, I'm thinking about a friend of mine who actually came out as a people pleaser. She said, and it all made complete sense. We're like, yes, you're always the yes person in everything. You're always there. The most lovely person, always very considerate, very kind, very loving. But now she has boundaries, and it's lovely to hear her say no. It's even when I ask her to do something for me and she says no, I kind of go, yes, go on. Because it's so alien for me to hear her have those boundaries. And you're right about having the right people around you. It's interesting you talk about being your authentic self, because it is a bit of a shift and it can be difficult for some people, but it is becoming your authentic self. And fundamentally, that person will be happier because they're taking care of themselves and their own needs and what they need to do. And it is lovely to hear them finally say, no, I won't pick up your kids on Wednesday, or no, I can't do that, or I can't be there, or I'm not going on that because that's not good for me. I love hearing, especially women say that. I love when, and I going back to the midlife thing. I just wish I was more like this in my 20s and 30s. I wish I had more boundaries. I wish I was more selfish, not selfish in a way, but considerate of my own feelings, because when you have that thing, the dose of the fuck, it's great. It's a great feeling. It really is. Can people pleasers have good sex, Shannen?
Okay, I love the question. I'm getting into it. So for people pleasers in the bedroom, a lot of it is performance. And I'm going to go through like a little run through of scenario of what might go through a people pleaser's mind when they're having sex. So this might not be something exactly that they're thinking. It could be unconsciously, but it is something that has happened to me. And so I know it is true, and it's happened to a lot of my clients. So let's say I'm the people pleaser. I'm in bed with my partner and he will ask to go down on me. So he's going down on me, and these are the thoughts that are going in my head. Oh God, I don't want to take too long. Obviously he's just asked to do this, because he thinks I'm going to like it, but I much prefer being the person to give. I don't really like receiving. I feel a bit uncomfortable because I really want to please him. But do you know what? I'm going to make a couple of noises now to make sure that he knows that I'm enjoying it. And he's kind of sped it up a bit. So do you know what? I probably should act along like this as well. So I'm just going to fake the orgasm just so obviously he's going to prefer to have sex than this. He's just doing this to be nice. So yeah, I'm going to fake an orgasm and he's going to know that he's doing a great job. Okay, now we're having penetrative sex. Okay, he's at an uncomfortable position, but he seems like he's having a nice time, and his hip's digging into my hip. But you know what? I'm just going to keep going because he seems like he's really enjoying it. And oh God, I better arch my back so my boobs are in his face because I know he likes them, even though this is really uncomfortable for me. And okay, oh, better make some noises again so he knows I'm enjoying it. And oh, he's put his hand now on my throat. And I don't really like that, but he's obviously doing it because he enjoys it. So I'm just going to go along with it. And oh, he looks like he's kind of close, but obviously he's going to want to give me an orgasm, and I'm nowhere near close. But do you know what? I'm just going to fake it anyway. So he knows that I love him so much and he's having a great time. In that scenario, am I present at all?
No, not for a second.
No, and you can't have pleasure without presence. And with the people pleaser, you are putting on a performance. You are completely taking his or hers, whoever's needs, above your own because you just want to please them. And that's why people pleasers will always say, I love giving. I only like giving them oral sex. I hate receiving it. I don't like all the attention on me, because you feel uncomfortable with receiving without giving anything back. So you just rush through it. You don't enjoy it. And you're robbing yourself of pleasure, and you're robbing your partner of being able to give you that true pleasure.
Oh my God. That sounds exhausting in itself. It really does. And that must be a lot to unpack with people pleasers, because it's obviously synonymous with faking orgasms, and that can be a very bad habit, and a habit that will take a long time to rectify, I would say, or fix. I mean, where do you start with that?
You start small.
Okay.
If you've been married for 40 years, and I have had clients who have been married for that long who have said, I have never had an orgasm. My partner thinks I have had an orgasm every time we've had sex. But when you have learned sex from porn or from the movies, and you see the women having an orgasm every 30 seconds, barely being touched, the clitoris is not involved at all. She's not even in
She doesn't have one.
Area.
It's not there. It's not even in the movie. Yeah.
And it's just penetration. And with that lack of sex education, of knowing that most women won't orgasm this way, that 50 to 60% of women have admitted to faking an orgasm at least once in their life, and that number is probably smaller than the actual truth, which is really sad. And a lot of the time you're doing it for it not to be awkward or to save someone else's feelings, but you've given your partner a map, an incorrect map to your pleasure. So they don't know that they're doing anything wrong. And it can be tricky, but you don't have to, sit someone down and say, I've lied to you. I have never had an orgasm, or, everything you're doing is crap. You can do it in small steps and very gently. And something with that I recommend to my clients would be pleasure mapping.
Okay, what's that?
So it's really fun, and I recommend everyone to do it.
Oh, I'm excited.
So if you think about it, something that you enjoyed when you were 21 doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to enjoy it now at 31 or 41
Very
or whatever.
True. Yeah.
And even something that I liked last year doesn't mean I'm going to like it this year, or something that you enjoyed with a partner, maybe the next partner that you're not going to enjoy it. So pleasure mapping is essentially having curiosity about your body, looking at different areas of your body that you will experience pleasure from. So it's not even just about the areas, but it's about the types of touch and what you touch it with. So this is something that I'd recommend for people to do by themselves first. And then if you have a partner, you can do it with them also. But it's so important to know your own body without anyone else being in the equation. So by yourself first, you can even start slow after the shower. You're rubbing oil on your body. And you're just being mindful, checking the areas that feel kind of nice. Maybe the back of my neck feels nice to be rubbed down. Maybe, for me, from my knees down, they're so ticklish, they're a no-go zone. So you kind of learn these different areas of your body that you enjoy. You can try soft touch. You can get things, be creative. Things around the house, your hairbrush, rub that down your arm. What does that feel like? A fork on your thigh. Do you like the cool of the metal? Do you want to try ice? It's just being curious and putting the fun back into your pleasure of what do I like? And then, oh God, no, I don't like that at all. Or maybe you liked neck kisses when you were younger and now they're super ticklish and you just don't like them. So it's just getting the map of to know your own body and know your own pleasure.
Every single episode, Shannen, sorry, every single episode we do on this podcast, it always comes back to masturbation. It always does.
It's important.
It's like start with yourself.
It's so important.
Yeah.
But we're so used to not doing this. And especially as a woman, we're really not told about masturbation. We're really not told. And the clitoris only function is pleasure. And we're completely left out of the conversation. That's why I'm so passionate about talking about it. And it is important to know your own body, because if you don't know what you like, you're not going to be able to show someone else. And sex is a skill. Someone, even if they say, oh, I'm so good at sex, they might be good at sex with you.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's a learning process. And again, it will change. And that's why with clients that have said, how do I change my sex life? I'm not getting any pleasure. It's learning the map of you again, learning what you enjoy. And it's fun. You don't have to be so serious about it. And also focusing on orgasm. I will always tell my clients, orgasm is off the table. That's not what we're focusing on, because when you put the focus on that, you're putting pressure on yourself, and pressure leads to no pleasure. So just enjoyment, having fun.
I suppose learning how to be in the moment, especially if you are a people pleaser, that is a learned skill as well, in and out of the bedroom. So have you any tips for someone who is a people pleaser or finds it very hard to stay in the moment? How do they stay in the moment? What are some things they can go to help them achieve that?
So what I will always tell people is to start out of the bedroom. So if you're putting all of your focus and attention on the bedroom, and even if you're trying not to have that pressure, it is creating pressure, and it will make you overthink. And especially if you are someone that, if you're having sex and you're thinking, what do I need to add to the shopping list? If the floor needs a hoover. Again, that's just showing you that you're not present in that moment. So you need to practice outside of the bedroom. You need to be able to sit down and have breakfast without looking at anything. Are you scrolling on your phone? Are you picking your phone up the first thing that you do in the morning? And immediately, that's where your attention is going. So that's a big problem, I think, that a lot of us have. And that's one small thing of not picking up your phone for the first thing that you do in the morning and just sitting in silence with yourself, that can completely change your sex life, because you're teaching yourself how to be present in the small moments before you decide to completely overhaul it and be like, I need to completely change my sex life. I need to add sex toys. I need to add lingerie. It's never those. They're great additions, but it's never the root of it. It's sitting down and being with yourself. It's having a conversation with your friend, again, without scrolling on your phone, or watching a movie without scrolling on your phone. A lot of it is to do with that. It's just practicing being more mindful in the moment, and in allowing yourself to feel pleasure and telling yourself, I'm allowed to experience pleasure. And it doesn't mean that I have to put everyone else's pleasure above my own. I don't need to put them into consideration before myself.
And just back to people pleasers, and when they've been doing it for their entire life, let's say there's someone listening and she's a 35-year-old woman and she's listening to this and recognizes all the traits of a people pleaser in herself. What's the first step of rectifying that and helping herself not be a people pleaser? And is there anything that she can do in the here and now?
Yeah. So I think first is to always lead with kindness, because people will say to you, oh, just stop being a people pleaser then. And it's not as simple as that, because as we said earlier, people pleasing is a learned behavior from in your childhood, but it's also a stress response. So you've heard of fight, flight, or freeze. There's a fourth one called fawning, which is people pleasing. So let's say you're in a situation and someone at work is taking the piss out of you. And if your initial stress response is fawning, then you'll just laugh along with the joke, and because you don't want to make anyone else feel uncomfortable. So this is an intrinsic thing. So it's going to take time for you to stop this. It's not just a bad habit. So I think that's why I say lead with kindness. Know that it will take time for you to stop these behaviors. Next is the awareness of that you're doing it. And then this is the hardest part. And I understand why. And I found it hard myself, but it's saying no isn't the hardest part, but it's sitting with the guilt afterwards. Like you feel like the biggest bitch in the world. You've just told your friend that you can't walk their dog and you said no, and you didn't over explain. You didn't give 50 excuses. You didn't apologize and say that you'll do it the next 10 times. And it's just being okay with disappointing someone else and sitting with that, because you can't control, like they can feel disappointed. That's allowed. They're allowed to feel their emotions. All you have to control is saying no when you want to say no, and asking yourself, which costs you more, disappointing someone else for a moment or disappointing yourself for the rest of your life, by never listening to your wants and your needs. So there's small little steps, giving yourself more time. Someone asks you to go somewhere, saying, let me get back to you on that. And then checking in with yourself before your immediate response is yes. Giving yourself the time to figure out, is this something that I want to do? Is this something that I have the time and energy to do? And then just saying no and remembering that no is a full sentence. So you can say no, thank you. That's still being polite. You don't need to expand on it. But it will be uncomfortable. It will be hard, especially if this is your go-to mode of always putting everyone else's wants and needs. But as I said earlier, letting people know, I realize I'm a people pleaser. I want to stop. And then they
right
should be
people,
okay.
The right people will stick around. Are you happier now that you're less of a people pleaser? Because you said you never fully lose it. You're always working on it. But are you happier now?
Yeah, I'm so much happier because I'm not holding on to resentment of, oh, I did this for this person and they didn't say thank you the way that I wanted to be thanked. I'm not, you don't care about what other people, like if people don't like me. That's so freeing, because you can't please everyone. You can't make everyone like you. And if you make yourself into a version of someone that everyone likes, you're never going to be loved. You're never going to be loved for your authentic self. You're just giving people surface level of what you think, again, because you can't know what's going on in someone else's mind, but you're giving them what you think they will want. So that's exhausting. So yeah, I'm a lot happier now. I will still notice it in situations. And for me, it comes up in my indecisiveness because it's a learned behavior. It's something that's intrinsic to me to say, I don't mind. But like my sister will call me out on it because she knows I'm a people pleaser, and she'll say, pick somewhere. And she'll actually just make me pick somewhere. And I'm like, oh God, okay. And then I'll pick somewhere for a restaurant. And then I go there and then I realize it's not the end of the world. She doesn't like the food. I didn't make it. Or even if I made the food and someone doesn't like it, it's okay. They're not going to hate you for making a mistake. And then allowing yourself to know this, it's incredibly freeing.
Well, it's been really interesting talking to you, and I really appreciate your time. Shannen, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Okay, so we've had a chat about people pleasing, the do's, the don'ts, how to recognize it. Darren, I don't know why I felt compelled to chat to you after this chat. Not to say that you're a people pleaser, but you're definitely a yes person.
100%. Like, I am the definition of a people pleaser, Jen.
Were you listening to that going, I recognize a lot of these traits in myself?
Everything. Like, I was like, tell me more, help me fix it, And I don't know how. I feel like I need someone. I'm on a journey this year, definitely. And I feel like I'm working on it. And when she said about boundaries, that's where I was like, yes. I feel like when you put in a boundary, that's when things get a little bit difficult, and communication.
Have you recognized this in yourself before the interview, or was it while we were chatting you were thinking, oh my God, this just sounds like me?
I'm literally at the moment trying to be not a people pleaser. Yeah, I got so excited when I heard that this was coming, because I was like, I'm going to take notes. I think the last year, definitely, I have been like, how can I stop
Saying
living
yes.
for everybody else.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know, but at the same time, I'm quite easygoing as well. When Shannon said about, where do you want to go to eat? Generally, I don't actually care where we go to eat. So it's like, sometimes it's like, am I just easygoing or am I people pleasing? I feel like there's a kind of a fine line.
There is a fine, and it's hard to differentiate, isn't it? I mean, that's where I would struggle. When is it just being nice and when is it people pleasing? But she made it very clear that it's when the motivation behind it, like, why are you saying I don't care? Is it because you don't really care, or is it because you don't want the other person to be disappointed?
Exactly. And I feel like where it really shows up for me was always in relationships, like romantic relationships. I would be like, where do you want me to lie down? Like, and he can walk all over me.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Or else I'd always be the yes man. And I'd say like, oh yeah, no, that's perfect. That doesn't affect me. Like, what do you want to do? And then eventually it kind of builds up and then I just combust and I'm like, actually, it's over. I don't want to be with you anymore.
Okay, so you turn a little psychotic then.
Exactly.
Okay, not great.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like, well, I'm out of here. And they're like, oh, but I thought we were fine. And I was like, I thought it was fine too. But clearly there's an underlying issue here. So.
Can you take a compliment?
I've gotten better at it. And but it's a mental thing. But I think as Irish people, it's like, you look beautiful. And it's like, oh God, no, the absolute state of me. Yeah. And I feel like now it's nice to just say, thank you. And then even that's weird to hear because
I am finding a lot of women or men who I compliment, they'll say that. And then even I was like, oh, good on them. You're kind of like, well done.
Yeah, I'm proud of you.
Well done.
Yeah.
Because there is a perception that people pleasers in relationships are just a doormat. Like that's what you would say. Oh, they're a bit of a door. You know what I mean? They just let people walk all over them. And
yeah,
I mean, which is an awful thing. But really, that's what it is. Would you be quite hurt if you found out that, previous relationships, they would describe you as a bit of a doormat?
Do you know what? One guy actually said to me before, I remember we were on a date and it was very early on into dating. And he said like, how do you fight? We were talking about previous relationships. And I was like, oh, I don't really fight, And I feel like that was a total, at the time, I didn't realize it was a just love me, like pick me, that kind of a way. And then he was like, yeah, you kind of need to fight in a relationship or like communicate, I think is what he meant by it. And I was like, oh no, it doesn't really bother me. And he was like, yeah, you're a lovely girl.
Oh, the kiss of death.
Yeah. I swear, I still think about it. I'm like, I do not want to be a lovely girl.
Because you're not a lovely. You're funny and you're sexy and you're smart and you have a lot.
Thank you.
Well done. What about the other side? Because I feel like we talked a lot about women being people pleasers. I actually went out with a guy who was a people pleaser. And for me, it was a bit of a turn off.
That is so funny that you said, because that would be, I'm like, I need you to like be in control without being controlling.
Yes.
A little bit. Is that? And I feel like that's kind of, now I've been in relationships where they've just been like point blank controlling and
assholes.
That's not ideal either. Yeah.
I've been in them too.
Yeah. But I just want someone to kind of mind me at the same time. So like, I don't want to be the person that has to like organize everything or, make all the decisions. And I know this is like, oh my God, am I going back to the people please? And I feel like I'm going to have to pay you at the end of this, Jen, for like a therapy session. But like, I like them to kind of take the lead a little bit.
Okay.
But also, don't make me feel like I'm a lovely girl. Jeez.
There's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot. I'm going to give you this one for free.
Okay.
But as she says, there's some very good tools in there to help you.
Yeah.
To help you make those decisions and recognize you're a people pleaser. I think there's a little bit of people pleasing in all of us, especially being Irish. It's just inherently in us, in our being and what we do, in our personality traits and how we build each other up. However, if it's detrimental to your well-being, then it's problematic. Thanks, Darren.
Thanks, Jen.
Don't cry now, okay?
I can't make any promises.